Hey there, friends of that D&D podcast. Jeff Stormer here, welcoming you to Party of One. As I'm sure Chris explained up top, he's added this episode to his RSS feed to give you an idea of what my show is all about. To that end, I figured I'd take a moment to explain in my own words just what Party of One is. Party of One is an actual play podcast where we explore the world of two-player role-playing games. Each week I sit down with a guest one-on-one to play a short tabletop game and see what happens when players leave the adventuring party behind and strike out on their own. We feature a variety of games on the show, including those designed for two, such as 14 Days, or Mars Colony, or Our Radios Are Dying, and those that, while not designed for two, are compatible with two. I think it's really fun, and intimate, and interesting, and personal, and I think you're going to dig it. That said, this week I am joined by GM Chris for a game of Murderous Ghosts by D. Vincent Baker. Murderous Ghosts is a two-player game of survival horror that follows one poor urban splunker as they try and navigate a haunted factory full of the tormented and violent souls of a long-forgotten atrocity. With only their wits to guide them, they'll face unsettling truths and questions without answer, and hopefully find their way home. But more than likely, they're going to get murdered by ghosts. So without any further ado, let's throw it over to me in the past so he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Hey, my guest this week is Chris from that D&D podcast. Chris, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
So right up the top of the show, why don't you talk a little bit about that D&D podcast, talk about where people might know you from.
Okay. Well, if any of your listeners frequent the Penny Arcade forums, I'm the Road Virus on there. You can find me as the Road Virus on Twitter. And as far as that D&D podcast goes, it's a live play RPG podcast. We did kind of a year-long 4E campaign. We've kind of hopped around on a few different things. We have a 5E campaign, and right now we're doing a Dungeon World one. And one of our cast members, Mike, is DMing a Star Wars Edge of the Empire campaign right now, too.
It's awesome. I'm super excited this week. We're going to get some spooks and some scares in. We are playing Murderous Ghosts by D. Vincent Baker.
If I remember correctly, I think he's the guy who did the Apocalypse World stuff.
Yes, this is actually powered by the Apocalypse, which I think is really interesting because it's so vastly different from Apocalypse World and Dungeon World. So I'm really excited to see what you can do with the Apocalypse World engine.
Yeah, and I can't wait to die horribly. So.
Oh, it's going to be great. I'm really excited. Murderous Ghosts is the story of an urban explorer battling murderous ghosts as they try to fight their way through an abandoned factory full of horrible ghosts of the past, trying to lash out in a nightmare existence. It's super fun. I'm really excited about this.
Me too.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and just dive right in.
All right.
We're going to start out before play. Just to set the scene a little bit like I said, this is a story of an urban explorer in a place of great violence. They have found themselves somewhere where they are going to be hunted by murderous ghosts. The game lasts for about 30 to 60 minutes, which is to say it lasts generally until you either survive, die, or one of us says, I can't take it anymore and quits.
Too many spooks.
So, to start play, I'm going to draw a card. The game uses a deck of cards, which we've got in front of us. To start play, I'm going to draw a card face down. And when I draw a card, what it represents is how far from escape you are as the player.
Okay.
Based on how many suits I draw. Now, I don't know what this card is because the rules state that I draw it face down, and it's not until I have 4 cards in front of me that we both get to know how far you are from escape.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so I've got one card drawn face down on the table, and I'm going to ask you, because another cool thing about the game, there's so many cool things that I've already accepted are cool that I have to go back and try to remind myself to explain for our listeners.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's sometimes it slips your mind because you're like, all right, well, I've read this. This is awesome. Everybody else should just automatically know it, and then your brain's like, no, hold on a second. Let me flesh it out for the people who have to listen.
Yeah, exactly. So the way the game works, and it's really cool, is it's designed for 2. And each of us, player and MC, each have a different book of scenarios in front of us. 52 scenarios in the book. Mine are all the even number or odd numbers, and yours are all the even numbers.
Yeah, and from what I could tell, some of these it looks like it plays kind of like one of those choose your own adventure books, because it's like you tell the MC this, and if it's this, turn to this number, and if it's this one, turn to this number. Which it seems like it adds a lot of replayability to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it's like a two-player choose-your-own-adventure thing. I think that's a really interesting structure for a game, and I'm really
Yeah.
excited to see how it actually shakes out. So I've drawn my card face down.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to turn to the start passage and read it or skim it or do it however to the actual passage you want.
Sure.
You can read it. You can read it directly. You can paraphrase it. Whatever. Turn to start, and we'll go from there.
All right. It says for me to tell you my name. Let's go with Greg. Why not?
Greg.
And also has a little thing for me to read to you. It says,
Okay.
my name's Greg. I'm 23, brave, athletic, and smart. I'm an urban spelunker, and I've been sewering. I mean, that's what we call it. You know the lingo. It's fine.
Sure. Yeah.
And as best as I can tell you, I've come up in the abandoned factory out where Platt Street curves beside the river. I'm exploring one of the sub-basements. I've been here for a little while. As far as I can tell, I'm pretty far from the sewer hatch that I came through, and I'm not seeing any kind of stairway that I can use to get immediate access to get out of here. I generally have an idea which way to go. I always research my spelunking adventures, and I've been careful, so hopefully I won't get lost. And it tells me to tell you to turn to number 1.
Okay, so I'm going to describe the space that you're in and the evidence of the violence that remains. So you're in this massive sub-basement, what appears to be like you're surrounded by these colossal textile loom machines.
Okay.
But they all appear to be rusted and the metal warped and melted. The walls all around you, you shine a light on them. Let me ask you,
Sure.
what kind of I don't know if this is a question that's going to come up, but I'm going to ask you up front, and then if it comes up, it comes up. It's very dark. What kind of light what kind of light do you have on you that you're using to explore with?
I've got this trusty backpack, and on one strap I have one of those little miner headlamps. On the other one,
Okay.
I've got my GoPro, because I always like to share my videos and
Sure.
show off to my friends.
Okay, yeah. So on the miner lamp, you're panning, and the walls, they are marked with scratches in the thick cement walls are marked with scratch marks. You take a few steps, and the air is thick with the smell of ash and dust and rotting meat.
Oh, good.
And you feel something. You kick it with your foot, and you look down, and it is a skull, and the jaw of which has been smashed on one side as if with a hammer or a brick or some heavy blunt object has just crushed half of this jaw. There is animal refuse around. There is just a thick layer of dust over everything. There are posters on the walls that are burned up and torn down. And with that, I'm going to ask you to turn to number 2.
All right. Mine, number 2, says, what is the worst thing that this suggests to you? Choose and tell the MC which. I've got betrayal, cruelty, madness, revenge, sorrow, or a threat to me here and now. Well, the burning and the crushed skull, it seems to me like somebody got killed and maybe they were trying to cover it up.
Interesting.
I'm going to go with cruelty. Because either, he was beaten and left for dead and they tried to cover their evidence, or they tried to burn him alive or something. But either way, it was pretty messed up. So let's go with cruelty, and that tells me we should turn to number 20.
Okay.
Cruelty. Tell the MC the closest you've ever been to death. Oh, good.
Fun, right?
There was one time when I was at the beach. I got pulled in by the undertow, and I'm already not a huge fan of deep water, and I have asthma, so my breath capacity is not that great. So there was a spot I was pretty sure I wasn't going to make it back to the surface. So I'm gonna say that's probably what it is.
Okay.
So then it says I have to draw a card.
Okay.
So let me draw one. So I got a 5 of spades. On your first draw of the game, this is a free draw.
The first draw automatically counts as a 13 to a 20.
Okay, well that's good, because 5 would be bad news, because that's not even the minimum for anything here. Okay. It says 13 to 20. If you haven't seen a ghost here, tell the MC to turn to 3. If there is a ghost here, tell the MC to turn to 13.
Okay. So 13, or 3. 3, not 13. 3.
Yes.
So, I ask you, what are you doing right now? You're free to move around the space, investigate whatever, and investigate, handle what's here, whatever you like. And I'm here to tell you what you find along the way.
Okay. First things first, I know you said I found the skull that was crushed. I'm going to
Yes.
look around and see if there are any other accompanying human-sized bones. So maybe I can get a picture of what happened to this guy.
Yeah, you look around, and by where you saw the scratch marks on the wall, you find a hand, like an arm, like the bones of a hand or like a forearm,
Okay.
and the fingertips have been ground to dust.
Oh, good.
They've been, yeah. You find the scattered bone dust remains around them. You look up and you see a window, like a surface window,
Mm-hmm.
dozens of feet out of reach. So it's as high as like just barely in range of sight, with the
Okay.
thick clouds of dust and dismay.
Hmm.
You find a few other human bones around. They're scattered about this very large space. Over the next several minutes, you look around, you find bones, but the strange thing is that they're scattered to the point that suggests that it's not just the one person's
Multiple
bones.
people's worth?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that scratch in the wall, does that look like it was made by like a tool, or is it kind of like a claw shape, or what are we looking at there?
It looks distinctly claw-shaped.
Crap. Okay. Is it high enough up to where it could be some just like, I don't know, some sort of crazy strong animal, or is it too tall to be an animal and maybe something weird?
No, it's about, it goes from about like 5 feet up
Mm-hmm.
to about like 6.5 feet up.
Oh, okay.
So decidedly in human range.
Huh.
As you're looking at the bones and the claw mark, you see that the edge of the like the corner of the floor where the floor meets the wall is like black with this layer of ashy grime. Like just it's just this pitch black layer against this cold gray concrete of like thick grease and ash just piled up and accumulated.
I'm gonna put on one of my little climbing gloves that I've got, and
Sure.
I'm gonna try to scoop some of it up and see if I can figure out what in the world this stuff is.
Sure. You pick it up, and let me ask you, when is the last time you handled, or have you ever handled, like, the remains of like, a fire and burning material?
Yeah, I've done that a few times. I'm in real life, I'm an Eagle Scout, so we did all the campfire setup and all that sort of stuff. So I'm gonna say game version guy is 2.
Okay. Yeah, so you pick it up, and it's just ash, but it's not quite the ash that you're familiar with. It's thicker, it's greasier, it's almost like...
Something was rendered down, maybe.
Yeah. Charred remains of like textile, like little tiny fragments, like little bits of it, float
Okay.
on the air, float on like the dust clouds all around you.
Well, I think the last thing I would want to check out would be the rusty, warped machines. Like, does it look like the fire maybe started in one of those, or did they just get caught up in the fire?
You look at one of the machines and you see there's a panel that sort of, like the fire has sort of forced it open.
Mm-hmm.
Like the hinges are fused in a way that it's forced open. You pull it open and you see chunks of fabric in between the various gears on the inside of this panel, like inside that you can peer inside the machine, and you see chunks of little fabric like jammed in the gears.
Okay.
So it looks like these machines they were manufactured at a point when the manufacturing of this textile was a very haphazard process, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's entirely possible that fire started somewhere in like the textile things.
That's what you get when you buy really crappy clothes printers.
So as you're looking at that, like I mentioned, these little flecks of fabric are floating around. You kind of look, you see a few of them float by like on a dust cloud, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few more, and then a few more. And you look, and you're noticing that they're kind of swirling all around, and they're sort of wafting a little bit, maybe like 10, 20 feet to your right. They're wafting, and you look, and there is a young woman there who wasn't there before.
Oh, man.
She is gaunt. Her eyes are sunken. Her hands are hideous, her fingers are way too long and rot, like her crusted fingernails have sort of warped into her hands, so she has these huge claw hands, and she's just pulling at fabric, pulling this length of fabric along one of these old, warped, broken machines.
Okay. Does she look like see-through or anything, or does she seem like she's for real, like physical?
She is not see-through, but she is deathly pale.
Okay.
Almost blue. That very distinct, almost blue pallor color.
Yeah, the corpsey color.
Corpsey color, yeah, exactly. So I am going to ask you to draw.
All right.
So when the player draws, let me go over how that works for you. Anytime you draw, you begin play with an empty hand. All of your cards are played face up.
Okay.
Before you draw, you may discard you may choose to discard any cards currently in your hand.
Okay.
You'll draw a card from the top of the deck, face up, add it to your hand. Aces are 1, 2 through 10, add their value. All face cards add 11.
Can do.
The sum total result that the numbers that you have will impact whether the best thing happens, a middling thing happens, or the worst possible thing happens.
All right. So the best is 13 to 20, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got a 5 right now, so odds are, I'm not gonna bust at least. So I'm gonna take this card.
Yeah. If you get a 6 through a 12, a middling thing happens. A 1 through 5, the worst possible thing happens. A 13 to 20, the best possible thing happens. And a 21 or up is a bust, and the worst possible thing happens again.
All right. Well, I have a 5, so let's hope for an 8 or more. It's a 6.
Okay. So a middling thing happens. She looks in your direction.
Okay.
And you see her hair is in a bun that is slightly off to the side of the back of her head, but it is smoldering. And, her hair is caked and matted onto her head, like she has not showered or bathed in who knows how long. There are grease marks all over her face and body, and you can see that, as you look at her and as she looks at you, and there's this moment where you're just looking at each other, you start to notice that some of them are grease marks, and some of them are, horrific burns. Deep, charring burns. And she just looks at you, and she turns back and tugs it some more, and then looks at you again and says, "Get back to work."
Huh. Okay.
Okay, so she says that, at which point I turn to 17. Yeah, okay. She says that a third time. She says, "Get back to work," and she rips the fabric and, just starts walking at you. And as she's holding the fabric, she starts pulling it, and it starts, stretching, unlike any fabric that you've ever seen.
Huh. Okay. Now, Greg has always prided himself on his ability to keep his composure even in scary situations, and his grandma always told him she was super superstitious, but she always told him ghosts are here because they have unfinished business.
Okay.
So instead of being scared of her, he's going to try and calm her down. He's going to say, look, it's break time. The boss just said it's break time. You look thirsty. You look hungry. Do you want some food? I have some snacks or some drinks I can share with you.
She continues walking towards you, and she just says, "Break time is for union fat cats." And she just continue, and she is upon you now, and she's just pulling this thing, and it's closing in on your face. So now I'm going to ask you to choose one of 4 numbers in your booklet.
Okay.
You will turn to either 6, 10, 14, or 16.
Is this when I have to choose kind of sight unseen?
Yes, they're all good. So you're not going to get murdered here.
Okay.
But she's just coming towards you with this unnatural, spider silky fabric, and is closing in on you. So choose one of those 4 options.
All right. I'm going to choose the second one. So I think you said that was number 10?
Number 10, yeah.
All right. Ask the MC what the ghost is capable of doing to you.
She, like I said, you see her pulling this thing, and it just keeps getting longer, and now, by this point, she's looks like she's literally weaving it with her hands. And now it's like dragging behind her. It's like dragging off. She's dragging to the side, and you can tell that, like, if she gets to you, she can just wrap you up, suffocate you, and just and you would just be lost.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, it says after you do that, I'm supposed to draw.
Yep.
I'm still Okay, I'm shooting for a low card now. Let's see what I get. A 6. Okay, so that's 18. 12,
17. Best possible thing happens.
All right, so I get to choose one of these. My hands won't stop shaking. I cover my face. I'm whimpering. My knees are weak. I'm frozen in place, or I'm backing slowly away.
Is that the best possible thing?
Yeah, so on a 13 and 20, I choose 1. On a 6 to 12, I choose 2. And if I bust, I either scream, fall down, or scramble back the way I came.
Okay, gotcha. So choose 1.
As much as logic tells me that I should be backing up, for some reason I can't find the energy to move my legs. So I'm struck with panic at the realization that I am frozen in place.
Okay.
Then it tells me to tell you to continue from where you were.
Yes. So I'm going to turn to 19. You have a ghost's attention.
Oh, good.
So I weigh what's happened so far, which is that you've attracted the attention of this ghost that seems to be weaving this endless fabric with her hands. She wants you to go back to work. She won't listen to the idea that there's break time, because she's been told that break time is only for union folk, and she's not in the union. So now I ask you, what does Greg do here?
As she's closing in, the only thing that pops into his head is play along. So he's going to say, "I'm new. Can you tell me how the machine works? I'll help you out. I just don't know how."
That's interesting. Okay. Then I am going to say turn to number 36.
Okay.
She stops weaving, and she looks at you and just says, "You look old for a newbie. They usually start them around 6.
My parents called in a favor. We're hurting for money. Okay, so it says, oh, crap.
I don't know what 36 says, and I'm really excited now.
It says I have to draw.
Okay. Now remember, you can discard, choose to discard your hand.
Can I discard some cards, or is it the whole
It's your whole hand. It's all or nothing.
Shit. Oh.
And you can always count. It says counting cards is welcome. You just can't look at the discard pile once they've been discarded, or you can't look through them. If you can keep track of them in your head.
Yeah, the odds of me getting a 2 or 3 are relatively low, and anything over that is a bust. So I'm going to discard my hand.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Scoot these over. I'm going to draw a new card and hope it's not terrible. It's a 6, so I'm at least not in the worst possible situation. On a 6, I tell you to turn to number 23.
Number 23. I really like the anticipation of turning to a thing, because I haven't actually looked through I know the rules, but I don't actually know the...
That's exactly what I did. I read the rules, and I was like, I'm not going to spoil any of this. So now it's like, what are you seeing? What am I seeing?
Every time it tells me to turn to a number, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. Is the ghost trapped here, but not intent upon revenge or violence? Then the ghost investigates the other player. Turn to 27. Okay, yeah. So the woman with her clawed hands, she gets close to you, like close enough where you can smell the burning and the musty the smell of, like, you can smell like mothballs and old blankets and like the burning of these machines and the dust. She reaches up with that clawed hand and like grabs your cheek and like pulls on it. And she's like, "You don't look like you're from around here." And she's like starts like jabbing your side and your stomach. And she's like, "Oh, you've got a little belly. You're not a factory type, but we can always make you more like us." And she's like jabbing you, and sort of like she grabs you by the shoulders and like jerks you towards back towards the machine, and she grabs you by the back of the hair and she pulls it down. And she's like, "As long as you're here from 6 in the morning until 10 at night, you look here. You get 20 minutes for lunch. Understood?"
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You may turn now to 6, 8, 12, or 16. You may choose freely. They're all good.
16. I'm letting the D4 decide for me because it seems more fun that way.
That's all good.
All right. Let's see. What is it? No, sorry. What about the ghost still seems most human to you? Choose and tell the MC. Either its eyes, its sorrow, its anger, its fear, its movements, its voice, or another of my own choosing. Even though she seems angry, there's this kind of tortured sorrow that I see in her eyes over the bad treatment that she's gotten. And I can identify with that. That seems human to me.
Okay.
So after that, I have to... Oh, now I have to draw again. Okay. Keeping my card. And drawing number 10. So I'm at 16. Booyah.
All right. Best possible thing happens.
Tell the MC that you don't reach out to it in any way. And then continue from your place.
Okay. So yeah, she's explaining to you. She's just like, 6 a.m., you get in, you punch in, you look at the machine, you pull out the strands so they don't get caught, because if they get caught, things can go wrong. And she's just rattling off these really elaborate... You'd almost be impressed at how many little tricks of the trade she's memorized if she wasn't, some sort of hideous, murderous ghost.
Right.
So what do you do here?
First, I would take a quick glance down at my watch to see what time it is.
Okay.
See if I can use that as a, oh, hey, look, it's quitting time.
It is... I'm going to say because you were sewering, and because you're exploring abandoned buildings, that's not a daytime activity.
Yeah.
So it's definitely... But you've also been here a little while. It took you a little while to get to the sub-basement. To be here, and you've been here a while. So you look, and it is 6:30 in the morning.
Son of a bitch.
So, you know what? That exact reaction, I'm going to say, you're going to have to test your ability to stay calm right now.
Okay.
Turn to 6, 8, 10, 14, or 16. Choose freely. They're all good.
8.
8.
What is the worst part about this ghost? Obviously the hands. So the hands are the worst part. And then I draw again. Crap. All right, I'm going to have to discard my hand because I don't want to bust. Let's draw another card. And... Oh, I just flipped the whole discard pile. Great. I got an ace. Crap.
What's the worst possible thing that happens here?
It is. So I panic. Choose one. I either lash out, I beg, I scramble back the way I came, or I throw up. Greg has a lot of problems with like acid reflux, and one of his panic responses is for some reason to just throw up. And as much as he tries to hold it down, like he tries to catch it, and then another wave comes and he just throws up all over his shoes and the inside of the machine.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I figured if it's bad, it's going to be bad.
It's bad. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. That happens, and you look down, and it wasn't there before, but suddenly that fabric that she was weaving is right at your feet, and there's vomit right on it, and she's like, if they see this, then it's my head. And she just starts like, her hands, they've already been like kind of jabbing you in the shoulder as she kind of points things at you. Mm-hmm. And like I said, her fingernails are warped, so like every time she jabs you, it's like just kind of like gently poking someone with a rusty nail. So it's not breaking the skin, but it's definitely like
hurts and itches and stuff.
Yeah, and and you can like feel the rust on it because you're like, oh, it's like unclean now. Yeah, so now she's like spins you around. She jabs you, spins you like a full 180 degrees. So you're disoriented, and she wraps her giant hand around your throat, and she starts like balling up she starts balling up the fabric that she's been weaving, and she's like, you keep your fucking lunch down. And she starts like grabbing it, and yes, now she's like balling it up with obviously the intent of jamming all of this fabric down your throat.
Great.
So turn to 40.
40. Uh-oh, that's getting towards the back of the book. That's not good. Number 40. I get to draw, and then we will determine the consequences after that. So, got a card. Flip it. Ace and a 7. That gives me 8. You can't escape the ghost's assault, but tell the MC what you try to do to survive it. Tell the MC to continue from their place. All right, so he's definitely panicking now. As much as he tries to keep his composure, things just seem to be falling apart. So he's going to say, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I haven't eaten in days. I'm tired. This is a stressful situation. I'm new to this whole thing, and I'll clean it up. I swear."
Okay. Yes, I'm going to say she's balling it up, and she is just saying, she's now just repeating, like, you keep your fucking lunch down, and she is, like, still reaching for your throat, and as you beg and reason, you're kind of like, your head is sort of bobbing around as she tries to, like, jam a ball of fabric in your throat. So I'm going to ask you to turn to number 44.
All right. You've survived the ghost's attack. Eventually it goes, leaving you for dead. But, ... draw.
Yes, so what has happened is she eventually does just, like, grab your chin, and you feel, like, grabs your chin and you feel her fingers dig in, and it starts to, and, like, you don't feel a crack in your jaw, but you feel it, like, you can almost feel the bones bending as if they're about to snap. So you just eventually, like, your instinct reflex kicks in, and you sort of hold your mouth open just enough that she can start jamming it down your throat. And she, like, just drops you go down, and she's just, like, trying to jam this down your throat. So eventually, I'm sorry, continue.
44 is bad. I'm just letting you know that.
Oh, I love this game so much already.
Okay. So, I'm going to tell you what bust says before I flip this card over.
Okay.
Eventually it goes, leaving you for dead. But if you bust, it says, it's because you're dead. You just don't realize it yet.
Whoa.
Okay, so I got a 4. So that's 11, 12. Shit. I have to ask you to choose one of these. I'm badly hurt, most likely dying. I can't stand, let alone walk. I'm disoriented and lost. Or I'm cornered with no way out.
I'm going to say...
These are bad.
I'm going to say you are... What was the disoriented one?
Disoriented and lost.
You are disoriented and lost. It feels like you're there for hours, like, and she's just jamming these fistfuls of, like, cloth down your throat, and it's gagging you with every single one, and your reflexes triggering with every single one, and you try to cough it back up, but you can't, as more of this fabric, and eventually you, like, just collapse onto the hard floor. She just says, "Somebody pick this one up," and just, like, walks back, and the bits of fabric that were swirling around her are right back to where she's just back to standing at the thing, and she's pulling out threads of fabric, and then she's gone.
All right. Well,
you struggle to your feet, you finally cough up, and all that comes up is, like, it's just like dry heaves for a few minutes. But you look around and the room is spinning because you've been dry heaving, and you're dehydrated and you're disoriented and you're lost.
all right. Well, it says to tell you to turn to number 33.
33. You have survived the ghost's assault, but you have suffered badly for it. So I get to decide the outcome. The ghost has departed, so I'm going to turn back to 3.
Okay.
You are back to being alone in this massive winding factory floor. Everything is more or less as it was, but you notice that there's more fabric seemingly piled up all around you.
Weird.
You're dizzy, you're disoriented, you're dehydrated. What do you do?
I think step one would be to try and solve the immediate problem by, seeing if I can find my water bottle and like a protein bar or something in my backpack. And after that, try to figure out how the hell to get out of this place.
Okay. You do. You find the water. You find your water bottle. You take a drink of it. You take a drink of it. You take a big, huge swig of it, and you cough most of it up, just out of sheer because you've been gagging so much.
Yeah, throat's kind of raw and yeah.
So eventually, some of it goes down. You have the protein bar, but you decide I don't even You can try it if you want, but you don't know if you're going to be able to keep it down.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with water for now.
Yeah,
I think.
so you eventually get some hydration, so you've kind of got your bearings again. So you move through the hallways. The first thing you come upon is a stairwell. Yes, the first thing you come upon, you find a stairwell. One of those one of those real flimsy, the factory loft stairwells. You know the ones I'm talking about, where they're
Yeah,
real.
it seems like it's made out of the basic, the same stuff as like a step ladder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you find that, you make your way up, you reach a door. It's partially there, or the door is there, and you make a move on it, but it's jammed shut because you push on it because it opens to the outside, but it doesn't budge.
Open?
Yeah, it opens a little bit, but there's obviously stuff on the other side. The doorway is obviously the exit to this building is obviously jammed up against something practically immobile. Around the doorway, you look and you find more bones, a few body parts of rotting corpses. There was clearly, around this doorway, there was clearly a mass of people, because you're seeing a lot of repeating bones and such. So there's clearly whatever happened clearly involved a mass of people at this doorway.
I'm thinking they were probably trying to get away from the fire and they died in the smoke. That would be my first assumption upon seeing that in the barred door. Now, does the stairwell go down any further, or is it just lead up to this door?
It leads up to a loft area.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's the floor and then there's the loft area.
Are there any windows or anything in the loft area that look out into the outside world?
They're the only windows that you see are the ones that, even from the loft, they're kind of out of reach. And you can tell they're out of reach because more of those claw marks in the walls are underneath the windows. There's a lot more of them where there's actually just chunks of wall missing, and that you can't see on the outside, but you can see that the chunks of wall are a few inches thick, that are missing, as if people had just been clawing and trying to climb the walls so much that they just ripped chunks of them out.
Crap. Okay. I guess this plan did not work. I guess I would go back to the main spooky area and look for another way out.
Okay. You start to make your way down the stairs, and there's a buzzing. Yes, there's a buzzing.
Is it ahead of me or behind me in the loft?
It is behind you on the loft. There's a buzzing. It's electrical. It's a fuzzy kind of... It's a fuzzy kind of noise. It's something you've definitely heard at some point before. It's muffled at first, and you eventually start making out words evacuate and orderly, and you recognize that you're hearing a loudspeaker, but all the lights are out in here.
Let's see if we could find the source of that noise.
Okay. You look around the loft and you see you peek around with the light on your backpack and your GoPro, and you eventually see the one of those little tiny old timey loudspeakers has fallen out and the cords are dangling, and that's what seems to be making the noise. Except the thing is, it's wrapped around the throat of a dead body.
Oh, good.
And what you see as you get closer, you look at it and you can see that it's actually the cord is wrapped around its throat, but it's actually come back around in a way that doesn't quite make sense. It doesn't quite you can't piece together why it would come back like that, except that you see that the loudspeaker has managed to find itself lodged in the upper throat of the dead body, and that's what's giving that muffled subway bus subway bus terminal operator speak, and it's just saying things, but it's sprawled out against a corner, and it's got the loudspeaker box in its throat, and it's just spouting off random platitudes.
Well, things can't get too much crazier, so Greg's gonna try and ask the dead body with the muffled sound a question and see if the speaker responds.
Okay.
Hey, how do I get out of here?
Let me see exactly. Let me read this.
Sure.
Every ghost will murder the other player. Attracts attention the wrong way.
I don't like that part.
Okay. So, yes, I know exactly what's going to happen. So you approach it and you ask it that. And the thing that you notice is it looks up at you and its eyes go wide. Or its eye, man. I should say. One of them has clearly burst.
Gross.
Yeah, right? And it starts convulsing just a little bit, and you see actual electrical sparks just pop out, and it pops veins and a little bit of coagulated blood and shock just right out of one arm and then right out of a leg. And it just, you hear, as I flip to number 15, choose option B. No, choose option A. It gives you that that subway operator as it starts to clamber to its feet.
Is it still kind of tethered to the wall with the wire?
Yes.
Okay, well that's good at least. I'm gonna try to back away to what I think is a safe distance and keep. I'm gonna say, okay, one more time. How do I get out of here? I can help you if you help me.
Okay. It continues approaching towards you as it just says louder. And it just continues approaching, and it hits the edge of the wire, and it tugs once, and it steps back, and it walks up and it tugs again, and then it snaps forward. The wire snaps. It a bunch of its veins burst with electricity as it shakes and convulses as it moves, as it approaches. So
crap.
So it is approaching you with its full attention upon you. So you can once again turn to 6, 10, 14, or 16. Choose freely. They're all good. And I'm going to keep my place here.
Okay.
I'm really enjoying this game.
I don't think I've tried 6 yet. Let's go with 6.
Okay.
Tell the MC something you wanted the chance to do before you died.
What?
Oh, there's other parts. We'll have to start with this one. Greg, he's been a fan of exploring, and he knows some people who actually have a chance to go to Antarctica and stuff on research expeditions, and he's been saving up the money and the leave time from work to where he can go with them once, because he's always loved exploring, and what better place than one of the most unexplored places in the world. So right after that, tell MC something you wanted a chance to do before he died. It says, what do you most hope that you don't do now? Choose scream, break and run, beg, or lash out. Greg is really hoping he doesn't lash out. It seems like these people died in a bad situation and they died angry, so abuse would probably make it worse.
Okay, that makes sense.
So now I'm going to draw.
Yep.
Let's see, I have a 12. 8 cards possible to give me a 20. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that'll give me more than 20. Let's go for it. This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Fuck!
The worst possible thing happens.
I got a 22. You do the one thing you hoped you wouldn't. Tell the MC. Panic sets in, and not wanting to have anything shoved down his throat, I meet the rushing speaker monster with a punch to the speaker box.
Okay. You punch it, and to your credit, you knock it back, and you actually see the speaker box shoot back through the other side of their neck. It's pretty gnarly. They respond by shoving you, and you tumble over the top of the loft. Is there anything else on the thing, or do I just keep describing?
Yeah, it just says to continue from where you were.
Okay, so after I draw, let's see. So it shoves you and you teeter. I'm going to say that, you teeter, and I have to flip to number 29.
29 is everybody leaves happily, I think.
It's probably, that makes sense. Oh no, it's a ghost that's assaulting you.
Well, that checks out too.
Okay, then I know exactly what, now that I'm reading it over. It screams one last time. And it shoves you, and you do go tumbling over, and you land on this big sheet of fabric between, like one of the long strands of it between two looms.
Oh,
and you splash and you sink below it. And it surrounds you in this liquidy, milky kind of way. Thick like whole milk, too. Like, kind of just on the edge of curdling, where it's like real thick and a little chunky. Yeah, actually, that's way past... Wait, hold on.
Like buttermilk?
Yeah. Because I feel like once milk is chunky, that's way past.
Yeah. I think buttermilk's kind of like gooey sour cream.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It does that. And, like, you feel your whole body, like, you feel the... Even though, like, it was on the top of the loft, you feel like you suddenly see its hands plunge into this milky fabric and hold you, and it's just holding you down, and you feel the tug of the undertow as it's just like, as it's pulling you, and you can't fight your way up to the surface.
Oh man, that's fucked up.
So now, you can turn to number 40.
All right. I have to draw. Well, I've already busted, so I'm going to put all these away.
Well, you can draw on that if you want. It's your call. It's your funeral.
Technically, I can, and technically it would be. Let's flip. I got a queen, so that gives me an 11.
11.
Okay. I can't escape the ghost assault, but I have to tell you what I do to try and survive it. I'm going to try... Greg stops fighting at a certain point and does his best to simulate the way he's seen dead people kind of float there in movies.
Okay.
In the hopes that this thing will lose interest.
Okay. Then, no ghost can relent until it believes its victim dead. So you can flip to number 44.
I've survived the ghost attack. Eventually it goes, leaving me for dead, but I get to draw again. Trying my luck. I'm going to try it. And it's probably going to bite me in the ass. Let's see. Yep. I busted. Oh, no. You survived the ghost attack. Eventually it goes, leaving you for dead. But it's because you are dead, and you just don't realize it yet. Tell the MC to turn to 37.
37. The other player has been left for dead by the ghost because you are dead. So I ask you now, what do you look like as a ghost?
A little bit bloated. You know how on the movies and stuff, when they get a body out of the water, it's kind of
Yeah,
swollen.
and it's kind of lost the definition.
Yeah, it's like that. It looks like somebody kind of put way too tight clothes on my guy. He doesn't have his backpack anymore. And strangely enough, since this place is so far inland, he has this distinct smell of ocean water, and he's got algae kind of stuck to his face.
All right, now turn to number 46.
You've been murdered by ghosts. The end. Thanks for playing.
Isn't that really what 46 is?
I shit you not. That's what 46 says.
Well, 37 ends with, did you scare yourself? And I did actually scare myself at several points. And you scared me just now, because that's an unsettling visual. And
yeah, well, I figured, if you're killed by your fear, or, what you think it is, then you probably take on what that fear was that killed you.
That makes sense. And did you leave troubling questions unanswered? What do you think? Did we leave troubling questions unanswered?
A little bit, like, why the hell did all these people get locked inside in a fire?
Okay, then yeah.
Or what I assume is a fire.
Then I did win. The end.
Damn you.
Thank you for playing.
That was fun. Okay, this is rad, and I'm printing this out, and I'm playing it with... I'm gonna play it with my wife, and she's like terrified of scary.
Oh,
films,
that was
fun.
Actually, that was really scary, and that was really cool. That was scary, and I was the one doing the scaring, and I was like unsettled at points.
That's definitely the goal. You did a good job, and I got the little heebie-jeebies a few times, especially when you did you're drowning in the undertow thing, and I was like, oh, no.
I hope that wasn't too far.
No.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. That was
Yeah, I didn't have like a flashback.
Okay.
Or anything. We're good.
Oh, that was really cool. Chris, that was super, super fun. Thank you for coming on the show. That was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad we finally were able to work the scheduling out to where I can come hang out with you.
Yeah, this was great. Anytime you want to come back on, anytime you want to play another game, this would be super. I'm super into it. So
yeah, I'll spread the word to some of the guys on the cast too, and we'll
please.
see if any of them are interested.
I'd love to. So real quick, why don't you run down social media stuff again before we wrap up?
Okay. So we are That D&D Podcast. It's a live play tabletop RPG podcast. You can find us at thatdndpodcast.com. That's D, the letter N, and then D, no ampersand. We're on Twitter at That D&D Podcast, and Facebook / That D&D Podcast. And if you ever want to email us about anything, we are thatdndpodcast@gmail.com.
And you also have a Patreon now, right?
We do. We just started it up. It's Patreon / That D&D Podcast. We try to keep the naming the same to make it easy to find us.
I just want to make sure I got that plug in, because it's important.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Helping us pay for all of our subscriptions and hosting fees and all that kind of stuff.
Yep, I know the struggle. Oh, that was super fun. Oh my gosh, Chris, thank you so much for coming on Party of One. I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show.
All right, sounds good. Bye.
Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Chris for coming on to the show. And for hosting this episode on his RSS feed. What a good idea. Chris, you're a good dude. If you like the show and you'd like to hear more, you can find us on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/partyofonepodcast. We're also on iTunes, Google Play, and wherever else fine podcasts can be downloaded. You can also follow the show on Twitter at partyofonepod, and like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. And if you really love the show, the best thing you can do to help it is to tell a friend, either by leaving us a nice iTunes review, or recommending it on social media, or just mentioning it to your friends at your next D&D game. Whatever you do, helping new people find the show is the best way to help it grow, and as we grow, we can do bigger and better and cooler things. And I deeply appreciate it. Party of One is produced by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. This episode edited by Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers. Until next time, party people, thanks for listening, and remember, if someone asks if you are a god, you say yes.